Hey guys, today we're going to be going over some terminal commands or Linux commands, what they are, and how we can use them in Java programming. Terminal, Linux, and shell commands are basically all commands that help you navigate and operate your computer without the help of a user interface such as Finder or Windows Explorer. In some IDEs, you might see a run button at the top of your screen to execute your Java program, if you're using Eclipse or IntelliJ or something like that. But it is recommended that you use the terminal commands to compile and run your program that are going to be taught in today's video because clicking a run button won't always be a plausible option for later coding projects, especially if you switch a language or use a different IDE. So let's get started with an example. Here I'm using an online IDE, but the process will be pretty similar to what's on your computer. If you need help downloading and setting up Java, video tutorials and links will be provided in the description below. But you can just follow along on your computer or use the online IDE, which will also be linked below. So the first thing we're going to do is create a file, a test file that we can compile and run. And here, all I have to do is click New File, but the process might be slightly different for your computer. So I'm going to click Add File, and let's call it test.java. So capital T, test.java. And here we have created a file. What we're going to be doing next is make this file a Java file that we can actually compile and run. To do that, we need to do a class declaration. So to do that, I'm going to type public class test. Keep in mind that almost all variables, class names, and method names are case dependent. So make sure to match the letters of the file name, which is test, exactly to the class name. Then I'm going to do the brackets, and now we've declared a class called test. So at this moment, we can actually compile this program, but we won't be able to run the program. For every Java program that needs to run, you must have something known as a main method. So let's go ahead and add a main method to this program. To do that, we're going to type public static void, so public static void, and then main, which shows that it's the main method. And inside the parentheses, we're going to put string, and then the square brackets, and args. So this is a standard class declaration in Java, and a public static void main method. So what this has done right now may not make a lot of sense yet, but this will basically run the program with whatever code is put inside the main method. Let's go ahead and print out that this is a working program if we execute the program. So system.out.println, this is a working program. Then the semicolon to finish the statement. So now if we were to run this program, we should get an output that says this is a working program. To compile a program in Java, all we need to type is javac space the file name.java. So let's go ahead and compile the test.java file. So javac test.java. Again, make sure you're doing this in your terminal or console. After a bit of processing, the file should compile, and you should notice that a test.class file has been created at the top left. The next thing we want to do is run this Java program. To do that, all we have to do is type Java and the file name. Keep in mind that we're not going to do the .java extension when we're running the program. So let's go ahead and try Java test. Once we ran the program, we see the expected output of this is a working program. Now, we've already learned two basic terminal commands. The thing is, we can only compile and run this program if we are in the same directory that the program is located in. Also, a directory is the same thing as a folder, but oftentimes we will use the term directory because it is more representative of the terminal and shell commands that we are going to be using. Let's say that I'm not actually inside the directory of test.java, but I want to find a way to get to the directory. The first command we're going to learn is pwd. What this does is it prints the working directory or the current directory that we are inside. If I were to go ahead and type pwd into the console, we should see that I am inside the Coding Santa Lessons directory. So what's printed out is something known as a file path. As you can see, it starts from the home directory and then something known as a runner directory, and then the directory that I created, or the folder, called Coding Santa Lessons. For you, it might be something different, such as home, and then users, and possibly downloads, depending on where you're keeping your files. Let's say I'm not actually inside the directory that contains test.java. To simulate this, I'm going to create a directory, which in my case would be add folder, and call it test directory. And as you can see, I've added a folder here. And inside the folder, I'm going to add a file called test2.java. Here, I'm going to do what we did earlier with test.java and make this file something that we can compile and run. So public class test2 public static void main string the square brackets args. And now we've created a file that can be compiled and run in Java. Let's go ahead and print out that this is a working file. Or let's print out that this is test2.java. So now if we were to execute this program, we would get the output of this is test2.java. Let's go ahead and try doing that. Java C test2.java. If you notice, we got an error saying that the file was not found, and this is because we are not inside the directory that contains test2.java. We are inside Coding Center Lessons, but test2.java is inside the test directory. What we can do to get there is something known as change directory. To solve this issue, we can use a command called cd. Using the cd command followed by the directory name lets us change our present directory into the directory that we're trying to go to. So in this case, we do cd test directory, and now when we print out the current directory, we should see that we are now inside the test directory. So now we can try compiling and running the test2.java files. Java C test2.java. Give it a second to compile, and then Java test2. And now we get the expected output of this is test2.java. Another command that we can do is cd. cd alone, without any names after it, will move us into the root directory. So if I did cd here and I typed pwd, we should see that we're in the root directory of the runner file. For you, this might be your user's directory after home. So let's say that we're trying to go back to the test directory. To do this, we can type cd, and the next one would be Coding Center Lessons. For you, it might be something different, but in my case, it's Coding Center Lessons. And instead of doing this multiple times, I can just hit slash and test directory. And now, if I were to print the working directory, we're inside the test directory. But let's say that I want to go back one directory instead of having to type out cd and changing directory every time. To do this, I can do cd space ... Now, this will move me back one directory to Coding Center Lessons from the test directory. So one more useful command that we can do is ls. ls basically lists the files that are inside the current directory. Once I did ls here, we see that we've created a test. We have a test.class, a test directory, and a test.java file inside our current directory. Also, back to when we created this test.class file upon compilation, what this did is the Java took the source code, or the code that we wrote, and turned it into bytecode using the Java C compiler. If I were to move into the test directory, so again, I would be doing cd test directory, and then I did ls, the only file inside this would be, the only files inside the test directory are test2.class and the test2.java file. And as we can see, it's printed here as well. So these are some of the basic terminal commands that we can use to navigate our computer and compile and execute a Java program. Now, we're going to move on to some other useful commands that may help you when you're trying to code. So for example, we can do clear in the terminal. So if I did clear here, it would basically clear the window of my console. Another thing that we can do is use the arrow keys to navigate between commands that we already inputted into the terminal. This helps us, instead of having to type the command that we want to do every time, such as compiling and running a program, we can just use the arrow keys to navigate back to where we did that command. So in this case, if I did the up arrow, it would go back to the clear command. If I went up again, do ls, and I can move down and up to navigate between the different commands that we did into the console. The next command that we can do is touch and then the filename.java. So touch, let's call it test, or actually let's just call it Santa.java. Basically creates a Java file called Santa inside the current directory. Again, let me print out the current directory. So we are inside the test directory. If I go ahead and open it up here, we should see that we've created a Santa.java file. I could also look at this by doing ls command that we learned earlier, and here we see that we have a Santa.java file present inside the current directory. So one more command that we're going to learn is mkdir. What this does is it makes a directory with the name that you give it. So let's call it Santa directory. And now we see that we've created a Santa directory inside the test directory. The final command that we're going to learn in this video is going to be cat. So cat space the file name.java prints out the content of whatever the file is to the terminal window. So if I did cat test2.java, we see the output of whatever was inside the test2.java file. So those are all the commands that we're going to cover in this video. As always, the code and the notes will be linked in the description below. If you would like more commands and how you can use them, resources will be linked below for you to read as well. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and check out our video for more resources on your coding journey.